Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome. Happy International Day of Education. Welcome to this webinar, where we are going to launch a new toolkit for policymakers. This is going to be the start of a journey. We are very happy to share this journey with you all. Welcome, and I really would like to thank all the speakers who have joined us today. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Vladimir Ryabinin, the Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO. Vladimir, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Dear listeners, participants, friends, indeed, happy International Education Day. There is no better day to start this initiative than today. I would like to say that we live in a very interesting epoch when the humankind is reconsidering its relationship with Mother Nature. I would like to quote from Antonio Guterres that the humankind has to stop the suicidal war against Mother Nature. And you know, this change of relationship definitely is informed by understanding of the limits to grow, the understanding of huge inequality that exists in the world. And in order to overcome all these issues, also in relation to the ocean, we need knowledge, we need to change our behavior, we also need resources to start changing our behavior. This will be possible if we change our attitude towards the Mother Nature. And of course, this has to go through policies. So that is actually the paradigm in which we are operating. And this paradigm is also changing because of the new initiative that was started by the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, IOC. And this decade is called the United Nations. This initiative is called the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, 2021-2030. So versus we are trying to create a new science. This is not just only a technocratic science, not only modeling observations. This is really human science. We have around 30 different programs, including such programs like ocean literacy, like empathy in relation to the ocean. You know, we are informed by what was happening previously, for example, in the domain of climate change, when all the science was there, but no decisions were made. And because of that, we learn that we need also to have social contract for climate science and for ocean science. That social contract forces us, scientists, to inform the society and change the attitude of society towards climate and towards the ocean. So what is important for this? This is very, I think, new in our relations with Mother Nature, is the emotional connection. We all need to know how we are connected to the ocean, that our species came from the ocean, that you know, oxygen is generated in the ocean, the role of ocean and climate, you know it because you are involved in this process, but not many people know. And what is also important, we also really need to personalize the knowledge, so that everyone is personally, individually connected to the ocean and realizes that connection, has responsibility to the ocean, and feels how the person is affected by the ocean and how person affects the ocean. So the IOC of UNESCO embarked on this journey several years ago with able participation and leadership of Francesca Santoro, who opened this webinar, and indeed the decade hopefully will be a game changer. You know, in proposing the decade to United Nations, we didn't really expect that it would start so strongly. And in designing the decade, we coined seven qualities of the ocean that we would like to see. So these are clean, productive, resilient ocean, healthy ocean, safe ocean, predicted, accessible, inspiring, and engaging. And you can easily see that the words inspiring and engaging are about us, people, in our relation to the ocean. So the 10 challenges of the decade also actually state that we need to address a number of really scientific challenges. But on top of this, we need to develop the capacity of addressing those challenges. And the last challenge, number 10, last but not least, is about changing our human relations with the ocean. And the ocean literacy is the key element in achieving that. because it's only by knowing you can love only what you know, and that's exactly what we are trying to do in developing the kit like this for education decision makers. So, you know, we're not doing this in isolation. We are doing this as a part of a very big initiative of UNESCO called Education for Sustainable Development. And we are doing this with professionals, for example, with International Bureau of Education of UNESCO, because they really know the technology, they know the methodology. Education, particularly in the current world, under COVID, you know, with abundance of communications, with abundance of online information, is really a new technology and also requires strong methodological approach. And that's exactly the purpose of this toolkit, to provide, to arm teachers with the instruments, not only knowledge, but also the instruments to move forward on education. I would like to thank our partners in UNESCO. I would like also to thank our partners in AXA, who were very helpful in supporting this work. And also I would like to thank Francesca and her team for working on this toolkit, which I think will be not only launched today, but also will become much more known. And we hope very much that it will start traveling around countries, will be embedded in the school curriculum, and this will start a new era of knowing the ocean better and moving towards acting in harmony with the ocean. So that is the vision of the world that IOC is experiencing. So IOC is not about technical science only, it's also about human relations with the ocean. With that, I would like to return the floor to Francesca. Thank everyone for participating and wish you a very good webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And I will now give the floor to Chip Canliffe from AXA-XL, who has already, as mentioned by Vladimir, supported this work, and we are very grateful for the support that AXA-XL has provided to IOC or UNESCO for to start this work. Chip, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Francesca, and Vladimir, also to you as well. Excuse me. So, look, I'm delighted to be with you.
Chip, you muted yourself. Okay.
There we go. Very good. I'm back already. Look, I'm delighted to be with you today. Of course, to help launch the toolkit, and thanks very much to Vladimir, Francesca, and all the team who've invited us to speak today. Look, the journey, I think, has really been a long one, not necessarily in the development of this specific document that we're talking about today, but really in driving the concept of ocean literacy itself. As an ex-geography teacher, just 15 years ago or so, all of our case studies and resources and really focus were terrestrial. The need to incorporate the ocean into our dialogue hadn't explicitly been made, and yet we were completely blind really to the rich canvas, I think, of the blue scientific, geographical, and even mathematical examples we could use in the curriculum. And of course, we're still at the start, hence the reason for AXA-XL to help fund the development of the toolkit through our Ocean Risk Initiative. AXA-XL and its predecessor companies have supported ocean science research since the early 1990s. In 2012, we created our ocean education program, of really learning modules based on the legacy of expeditionary research around Arctic sea ice loss, coral reef health, and the importance of deep ocean habitats. And while this was undertaken to deepen our knowledge of specific aspects of ocean science, from the outset, we also recognized the potential for sharing these experiences and information to engage and inform young people. So the free-to-use science and geography themed lessons expose students aged 7 to 16 to the vital role the ocean plays in our lives and the threats that it faces. The program focuses on building foundational knowledge and fostering an intellectual and emotional connection to the ocean and its many ecosystems, something which students hopefully will carry into their lives and onwards into their careers. We know many young people today are very well informed about our climate system. They understand that the changes in the atmosphere are affecting ocean temperatures, acidity levels, and of course, circulation patterns, and that these developments in turn are impacting vital oceanic ecosystems as well. These young people care, and they seem to be and are clamoring to know even more. So through the work that we've undertaken over the last 10 years, alongside our partners at Encounter EDU, we've engaged with and inspired young people by helping to give them the necessary understanding and skills that they need to tackle the world's most pressing issues. Jamie will speak in a second or so, and we'll touch on 360-degree VR, live lessons from the Arctic and Caribbean, all of which provide an immediacy and realism that naturally captures their attention and sparks even greater interest and curiosity. The work that we've led has provided a solid foundation from the bottom up, working with teachers and students from 96 countries around the world, engaging over 10 million children in total, 300,000 of whom have participated in live lessons. So the next logical step is to help provide a framework for governments to mainstream ocean literacy in formal and non-formal settings, taking account of trends in curriculum planning, concepts, and core competencies. As it says in the toolkit, systemic change will require relevant, context-specific, coherent policies and multi-stakeholder engagement. And this is where governments can work to provide the context, the environment and guardrails for policymakers, educational authorities, curriculum developers, teachers, parents and families to include the ocean in everyday education, which in turn will help governments achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of Agenda 2030. It's a big ask, but we know working through IOC UNESCO at the start of the UN decade provides the best launch pad to ensure long-term feasibility. We'll be watching and learning along the way, and I wish all those that use the toolkit success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chip. And thanks to both our speakers to open this webinar. And just before moving with the next speaker, I would like to remind you that English, French, Spanish, and Russian interpretation is provided. So you just have to go on the bottom of your page and see a little globe so you can select the language that you prefer. And also that we are going to have a little Q&A session. So be ready to pose your question in the chat box. So I'm really happy to give the floor to the next speaker, Renato Orpetti. We are really grateful to our colleagues in the International Bureau of Education because we really had very fruitful discussions with them and they really help us shaping this toolkit. So really grateful to our colleagues and very happy to give the floor to Renato, who is a senior expert at the IBE of UNESCO. Where their work is mainly relates to supporting the process of curriculum transformation in different regions and with a focus on addressing the challenges in the post-pandemic era. Among other actions, the IBE colleagues contribute to the coordination of the IBE flagship initiatives entitled HELA, Hybrid Education, Learning and Assessment, and Green Curriculum. So Renato, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Let's start by congratulating you and all your wonderful team for this milestone in putting some of the most critical issues in the agenda of education. And I totally agree with Vladimir and Chip and you about the rationale and the setting. And from our International Bureau of Education, our director, Dr. Ido, I'm representing him today. We are very much aware and committed to the idea of transformation of education, transformation of education systems, transformation of the curriculum as a way of transforming education. It's not only the way to transform education, to transform the curriculum, but you cannot transform sustainably education without transforming the curriculum, because the curriculum is about the content of education. It's about the what to educate, to learn, and to assess, and the how, and when and where to do it. So the curriculum is connecting. And I'd like to build up on what Chip and Vladimir has said, because we are in a moment where we need to connect visions, to connect ideas, to connect components, to connect pieces of knowledge, to get a more comprehensive understanding of education, because education is not about piecemeal approaches. Education is not about the accumulation of knowledge. On one box we have science, on the other box we have humanities, in the other box we have ethics, on the other box we have arts. No, it's about connecting all the pieces. And it's about connecting the pieces because the type of challenge our learners are facing in life. Our learners are facing in life as learners, but also as persons, as community members, as future citizens, as future workers, as future entrepreneurs. So the type of challenge they face today, they have to connect the pieces. They have to connect the knowledge to understand the nature of the problem they have to face, the challenge they have to face, and how to act. Chip talked about competencies, how you equip the learners with a wide understanding of knowledge embedded into the competencies to act, because a competency is something that gives you the knowledge and understanding to act, to address challenges, mobilizing knowledge, but also values, attitudes, capacities, skills. So we are in a turning moment, our friends of education today. And this toolkit comes in a very timely moment because we are in a moment of the transformation of education. And let me say just some elements that we are learning from our experience today about curriculum. And our colleague E is going to share a document where we go deeper into understanding of what are the clues today to rethink, or what are some clues to rethink curriculum today. Just let me tell you some things about this. Curriculum is about the kind of education and society you want to build. There is no curriculum about understanding of society, about the type of society we would like to build, the type of society imaginary we want to build, we want to understand. And we have to take into account that this type of discussions are highly political in a good sense, are highly embedded into the policy discussions. When we are discussing about content of education, we are discussing issues that are contested, that are evolving, that are dynamic. So we have to be aware of that. That's the first element I'd like to mention. The second one, that curriculum for us is about understanding the student as a person. What the pandemic has shown to us, to all of us, has highlighted to all of us, that sometimes incorporated into the discussions about disciplines, about areas of knowledge, we lost the student as a person. We lost the person. Thank you so much for putting that into there. We lost the person. We lost the person as the welfare and the development of the person. So we need to recuperate, to redynamize the understanding of the learner as a person. The third element that I would like to show is that when we talk about curriculum, we are talking about curriculum linked to policies and educational policies. There is no curriculum sustainability of policies, but educational policies, educational programs, educational initiatives to move forward needs an understanding of curriculum, needs an understanding of persons. The other element that we are knowing from our experience at IB and what we would like to share with you is that when we talk about curriculum, we are talking about the connection, and we talk about the connection from the for what and the what to educate and to learn and to assess with the how. So curriculum is about the content and how you deliver that content, how you give effect to that content. So there is a big connection between curriculum and pedagogical dimensions, and how this connection between curriculum and pedagogy impacts in the process of teaching, learning, and assessment. Also, we are knowing from IB experience, from UNESCO experience in education and in curriculum, that when we talk about curriculum, we are not talking about only the written curricula. The curriculum is written by us, can be a full toolkit, can be a framework, can be a syllabus, but we're talking also about the implemented curricula. We're talking about the achieved curricula. That's what we are achieving in terms of learning outcomes, in terms of competencies, in terms of knowledge. But we're also talking about two other things, or three other things that are important. We're talking how the curricula is experienced by learners, how learners experience the curricula, how teachers perceive the curricula, how curricula is negotiated between the principal, the supervisor, the teachers, the learners, the community. It's an ongoing negotiation process in a good sense. And also we are talking about the hidden curricula, the curricula that is not explicit, but is very important because it's in our mindsets. If our mindset in our school is that all our kids should learn about ocean literacy, they're going to learn about ocean literacy. But if we believe that some of them cannot learn about that, they're not going to learn. So mindsets are very important as being drivers of our behaviors. And also the forgotten curricula, because we can develop a very timely and very relevant toolkit as the one that's presented today. But then in the process of education, we forget the toolkit, never enter into the classroom because we don't have the right pedagogical approaches. We don't have the teachers on board. We don't have the learners motivated. So that's the forgotten curricula. We have to move from the forgotten to the curricula to the connected curricula, to the classrooms. And finally, the other takeaway from our experience in UNESCO is that finally what makes the difference in education is the relationship between the learners and the teachers. As the OECD reports, as Mr. Andreas Schelers, the Director of Education of OECD, has many times said, and our Director, Mr. Ido also, we are talking about teachers as co-developers of the curriculum. Teachers are not implementing a curriculum, are having the responsibility and the empowerment and the determination to co-develop the curriculum, to be the co-agents of the curriculum. And learners are not passive learners, are active learners, are taking responsibility, are taking the lead in their own learning. So today we are talking about learners as taking the lead and the responsibility, and being the protagonist of their own learning. So based on this takeaway, finally, if you can show the graphic that we have elaborated about the 10 clues that we have developed at IB UNESCO to rethink curricula. And I think these 10 clues that maybe we can show in the presentation now, I think that, thank you so much. These 10 clues are like, for us and for Francesca and for the team, there can be like ideas to inform the discussion about how you mainstream ocean literacy into the curriculum, as we have said, as an evolving process, as something that is very evolving and very dynamic. So we said that the first clue is about understanding the younger generation. We have to understand the young generation. We have to understand their expectations, their needs, their dreams, their aspirations, their fears. We have also to combat the second clue, vulnerability. Vulnerability is not about social vulnerability. It's not about only economic vulnerability. That's very important. The pandemic has shown us that. But also educational vulnerability. When our curricula is not good, it's vulnerable. When our approach to understand learning is not good, we are vulnerable. So we have also to address educational vulnerability. First element that the pandemic has very clearly shown us, that we have to rebuild the relation between the school and families. Education is essentially a society matter. It's a social matter. So we have to re-engage and to re-engage the collaboration and the trust between families and schools. Clue number 4 is about local education. Our education is local. It's neither global only, it's neither local only. It's about a local contextualization and understanding of what happened and what we can build based on a global vision. Openness, contextualization, and appropriation at the local level. Clue number 5 is enhancing the focus on the person. That's what we said. The starting point of any educational movement, of any educational transformation, is the understanding of the student as a person, the welfare and the development of the learner. Clue number 6 is about promoting synergies among values. There is complementarity between freedom and justice, between inclusion and cohesion, between excellence and equity. We have to build an educational community that's based on the complementarities of values. Clue number 7 is valuing diversity. We are unique, and all the knowledge coming now from neuroscience, from cognitive psychology, from science education is telling us very clearly that we are unique as human beings. An inclusive approach to education is that everyone is special, not some are special, every one of us are special. So we have to take care of our individual diversity in education, but also about our social diversity, our diversity in terms of affiliations, of traditions, of cultures. So diversity coming from the learner, but diversity coming also from the teachers. Clue number 8 is about freedom. We need an education that enhances learners to be free, to take autonomous decisions, to have autonomous thinking, autonomous action. So education is about freedom. It's about giving learners the capacity to take their own decisions, their own informed decisions, and be aware and be prevented to any type of manipulation, either human or a combination of human and artificial intelligence. Clue number 9 is about moving towards, and we have discussed with the team of Ocean Literacy Toolkit, with Ana Vittoria and Francesca, is about moving towards hybrid modes of education. Education in the future, and now it's moving very intensively. It's about connecting. It's about giving the complementarities between in-person and distance education. It's about the synergies. That's why Francesca has mentioned that IB has a program that's called HELA. It's an UNESCO program. It's hybrid education, learning and assessment. The rationale of this program is to support countries, member states of UNESCO, to give effect to hybrid modes of education, to complementarity between in-face and distance education. And finally, inspiring affection for educators. I mean, educations are the main policy makers of the school, of any educational system in the classroom. No one replaces, nor technology, no policy makers at the macro level, not at the meso level. No one replaces the decision that every teacher takes regarding the inclusion of LNL, of all learners. So essentially for us, teachers are the main policy makers at the classroom level. And we have to take care of that. And we have to empower teachers to take the right decisions. And we have to provide them the knowledge to take the right decision about ocean literacy in the classroom. Knowledge, but not only knowledge, attitudes, values, disposition, capacity to connect to the learner. That's why, and we finish by this, is that clues number 1 and 10 are connected. We start by understanding the learner, but that at the end of the day comes to teachers, empowering teachers to take the challenge of giving effect to an education that effectively takes into account the understanding, the comprehensive understanding of each learning as unique. So finally, my friends, our friends, we finish by saying we are in a critical moment of mankind where the decisions that we're going to take today about the sustainability, about green curricula, about blue curriculum, about new ways of understanding the curriculum are going to be crucial to make a difference in the welfare and development of all our young generation. Let's have the determination, the capacity, the knowledge, and the generosity to think and to place at the forefront the education of the new generation. Thank you so much. Back to Francesca.
Thank you so much, Renato. And again, let me take this opportunity to thank you and the IB colleagues for the support provided in the development of this toolkit. Now it's the time to thank another contributor to this toolkit, Jamie Buchanan Dunlop. He's the executive director of Encounter Edu. As I said, he was also part of the writing team of this toolkit. And Jamie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Francesca, and thank you also to Vladimir, Renato, and Chip for those wonderful words. I'm delighted to be with you all today to support the launch of the toolkit. As we've heard already, Vladimir touching on the sort of personalization and also addressing the uneven distribution of ocean literacy, and then Renato talking about sort of moving from knowledge to include values, attitudes, skills, this sort of era of transformation and connection we have in curriculum development. I just wanted to touch on the role of technology in developing ocean literacy. Now, for many of you watching and for many of those involved in ocean literacy and ocean education, your journey, like mine, might have started with a very tactile and direct experience with the ocean. And these encounters will have formed the sort of starting point probably for a lifelong engagement. And looking at education, it would be wonderful, and we can only imagine what impact curriculum, right to go snorkeling, to dip a toe in the ocean, to release a turtle hatchling, to go rock pooling, may have on the attitudes and values of young people as we take them on this journey from knowledge to positive behavioral change. Now, this may be an ambition too far for this decade, but we can look at how technologies can start to approximate or substitute some of these direct experiences and drive this knowledge towards behavioral change. Now, over the course of the last decade, we've been working with AXA Education, which Chip, Ocean Education, which Chip described earlier. And we've been looking at two main types of technology alongside the sort of traditional mix of classroom resources and teacher training. We've been looking at 360-degree media, sort of virtual reality, and then live video streamed lessons. I think that, 360-degree media, often sort of lumped in with virtual reality, it's a great technology. It's described as an immersive technology and can transport users to other worlds. So whether that be the coral reef, the Arctic Ocean, the deep ocean, we can start to bring these environments to young people in the classroom. And early research showed that it's not just a journey, but it can also lead to behavioral change. They did an experiment and gave a group of conference participants a short virtual, the sort of VR goggle trip to the Amazon rainforests. And they were moved to use fewer paper towels to clear up a sort of an accidental water spill compared to a control group furnished with just a sort of written pamphlet on deforestation. And for classroom use, we can share the wonders of important marine ecosystems. We can share the coral reef with millions of young people and get that wow moment and that engagement that we've been hearing sort of coming through some of the previous talks. And in a way, scale those relationships, those experiences, and take young people on a positive journey with us. It sort of makes faraway environments real. And my favorite comment when using 360 VR over the past has come from an elementary age student in a classroom just on the outskirts of London. And he is looking at a iconic imagery of coral reefs, and he complained he felt sick, and this was a known potential side effect. And I thought this was bad. The whole experience, this technology is rubbish now because children feel sick from using it too much. But he said he felt sick because he could smell and taste the ocean and was also afraid that there might be a shark around a bit of coral. Maybe not the best initial reaction to a virtual coral dive, but a strong testament to the power of this technology to make the reef come to life in a classroom very, very far away. Now, the other technology that we've been using for the past decade has been live stream video lessons. Of course, these have become sort of much more widespread over the past 2 years with the sort of school closures. But when we look at the lessons we can learn from the pandemic, as Renato was referring to, and sustainability in education, the benefits of live streamed learning go far beyond the replication of traditional classroom practice and experience in reaching remote learners. And there are three main benefits, and they're all based around the theme of access and equity of access. And I think that's a crucial theme for me and for many others looking at the decade and look at transforming ocean literacy. How can we give equity of access to this amazing world? So the first is the ability to take a virtual field trip to remote and important marine environments. And over the past decade, as Chip mentioned, we've taken over 300,000 students on trips to the Arctic Ocean, to coral reefs, submersible expeditions, as well as aquarium visits. And similar to the sort of VR experience, this creates a sort of a wow moment, an engagement, especially in comparison to more traditional modes of teaching and learning. Now, the second piece, and echoing Vladimir's points about personalization, students can interact directly with marine experts and And we can start to have an interaction, a conversation between young people, polar oceanographers, coral conservationists. And we may not be able to have an ocean expert physically in every classroom, but through live stream education, we can bring these voices to thousands of schools across the world. And those are role models who can really start to inspire, not just with the sort of strict sort of list of what we need to know, but their anecdotes, their experience, their lived experience of studying and being with the ocean environment. And these are experts who can untangle the mysteries and misconceptions that young people may have. And last point, by meeting people who work with the ocean experts, young people are exposed to marine careers that they may not have considered. And it's been wonderful to hear comments from teachers and young people saying, I never thought about being a marine biologist, I never thought about working with the ocean. And being able to have these exposed to a greater audience. Now, as the decade progresses, we will need this diverse and motivated range of people engaged with its ambitions. And with research showing that attitudes to science, careers, and the societal value of science starts to solidify at the ages of 10 to 13, starting young people's interest in a professional and personal life connected to the ocean needs to start as early as possible. It's what the Toolkit is doing from the top down. It's what these technologies can drive from the bottom up, from practitioners' point of view. And I really feel combined that sort of 360 VR and live stream lessons can address some of the obstacles facing, in particular, ocean education. This issue of the ocean being out of sight and therefore out of mind, the uneven distribution of knowledge about the ocean, and then the need to move beyond knowledge to this wow-based engagement to really drive behavioral change. And being digitally based, these technologies have the ability to scale rapidly and meet the ambitions of the decade. Thank you very, very much for including this section in this panel, and look forward to hearing from the rest of the speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. So we are now really starting to dive in the different technology approaches, and it was really great to hear about how we can use technology to promote ocean literacy. And now I'm really happy to give the floor to Dr. Ogbigwe, who is the founder of the UNPED Center for Environment and Development, founded in 1992 to respond to the environmental degradation and pollution of the Niger Delta region in Nigeria. She was a former head environmental education and training and coordinator ecosystem sub-program of UNEP. She currently serves as advisor for the African region, UNURCE's board member, Earth Charter International member, advisory board network on transforming education for sustainable futures, School of Education, University of Bristol. Thanks very much for joining us, and Akpedzi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca, and good afternoon, everyone. Happy International Day on Education. Let me start from drawing attention from climate change, since that's what we all see around us. Climate change is one of the central issues facing the world today, as the consequences of extreme fluctuations in global weather patterns unfold. According to the IPCC's 5th and 6th assessment report, human influence on the climate system is clear, and emissions of greenhouse gases due to climate activity have been the highest in history. Now, while most people can easily appreciate the human influences on atmosphere and land, there is not much appreciation of the effects of human activities on the oceans. And the oceans are critical to climate regulations. So continued ocean illiteracy would increase global vulnerability to many problems, including climate change. This gap needs to be remedied speedily. The oceans are not just that beautiful expanse of water with beautiful coral reefs that need protection, or where whales and dolphins live and swim. No, they are not just that expanse of water that seems to be able to suck in all our plastics. garbage, runoff from sewage systems, oil spills and others, and then magically restore itself. The oceans support a greater diversity of life and ecosystems, which are vital to life on Earth. They occupy 70% of the planet, create the oxygen we breathe, and the climate we live in. The Sustainable Development Goal 14 makes a clarion call for action to be taken on oceans. Governments and policymakers in education cannot neglect human impact on 70% of the planet and expect to be able to resolve climate change and the other critical environmental challenges facing us in the 21st century. And the Sustainable Development Goal 4 calls for urgent, inclusive, and equitable quality education and the promotion of lifelong learning opportunities for all. This underscores the importance of the availability of relevant educational, training, self-learning resources for all, including policymakers. Misinformation or ocean illiteracy can have tragic consequences, particularly when those making educational policies are blissfully uninformed. Over 3 decades ago, Donella Meadows, quoting the American ecologist Garrett Hardin, wrote, she said, "A citizen of the modern world must be educated to be literate, able to read and write, and to be numerate, able to understand and use numbers, and to be ecolate, able to understand and use sustainably the complex environmental systems of which he or she is a part." And that includes the oceans. This is truer today than 30 years ago. And education on how our actions, business, and governance affects 70% of the planet must be central to this learning. The UNESCO Education for Sustainable Development Framework sets out in its 2030 roadmap urgent challenges facing the planet and underlines the need to increase the contribution of education to building a more just and sustainable world. The essential vision of education for sustainable development is the empowering of people everywhere to assume responsibility for creating and enjoying a sustainable future. Ignoring education on and about 70% of the composition of our planet is definitely not sustainable. David Orr and Stephen Sterling postulate what education for sustainable development involves. They said it involves understanding the interdependence between sustainability issues in its varying contexts. It involves knowledge and skill. It involves development of life cycle awareness and systems thinking. So we cannot leave any part out. It involves skills for lifelong learning. It involves the competence and willingness to play the role of change agent, action competence, learning by doing and reflecting on outcomes, action learning, practicing what is preached, education as sustainable development, they said is prepared. So education as sustainable development, learning how to identify and eliminate unsustainability from everywhere. Ecological literacy. The importance of the UNESCO New Blue Curriculum, a toolkit for policymakers being launched today to facilitate the mainstreaming of ocean literacy in education policy formulation, cannot be overstated. According to the Senegalese environmentalist Baba Dione in 1968, he said, "In the end, we will conserve only what we love." And that has been repeated, by Vladimir in his opening remark. He also continued, he said, "We will love only what we understand. And we understand only what we are taught." It is not enough to love the oceans, enjoy the beaches, profit from their resources. We must learn more about them. We must understand them and learn how to live with them sustainably. That's what education for sustainable development is about. We must all take that responsibility, from the teachers to individuals to the government to policymakers to the business people, everybody. We must take on that responsibility to learn. And now that we have a toolkit that is being launched today, to use this toolkit in our governments, in our schools, and in our organizations. Thank you. And once again, happy International Day of Education.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for your passion and enthusiasm. And now we are moving to the presentation regarding the toolkit, and we're gonna share a little bit the approach that we developed and that we are going. It's a proposal coming from the IOC of UNESCO. So next slide, please, Ana Victoria. So what is the ambition for this new, what we call blue curriculum? It's really to promote the inclusion of ocean literacy in school curriculum frameworks. A lot of initiatives are happening around the world on ocean literacy, but we really feel that right now is the moment to make a change and really make ocean literacy more present in a structured manner in curriculum frameworks. We also want to support education stakeholders to address ocean literacy through formal education. And also we want to prepare the next generation of blue professionals for in order to be able to let them become more able to deal with the pressing threats that the ocean is facing. And then of course empower governments, policymakers and educational stakeholders, giving them some tools and some approaches that they can use in the process that we know is going to be a long one, but in the process of including ocean literacy in a more structured manner in curriculum frameworks. Next slide. So already Vladimir and Jamie and Chip before me mentioned the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Definitely this is already being a big driver for a lot of step forward in the ocean community. So ocean literacy is central and is critical for the success of the Ocean Decade, which tries to really move forward and really bring together all ocean stakeholders to be able to work together. So ocean literacy is kind of there to help translating and informing all the stakeholders in a way that ocean knowledge can be used to drive action. We some months ago published an ocean literacy framework of action for the Ocean Decade. So I invite you all to have a look at that. And also, as it was mentioned before, ocean literacy is really critical for some of the, at least 2 of the 10 challenges of the Ocean Decade, and in particular Challenge 9, which calls for skills, knowledge and technology for all, but most of all in Challenge 10, which ask and seek to change humanity's relationship with the ocean. And also, as it was mentioned by Vladimir again, the Ocean Decade identified 7 societal outcomes that are helping describing the ocean we want. So moving from the ocean we have to the ocean we want. And the 7th of them is an inspiring and engaging ocean. And of course, ocean literacy is really there critical to help us getting to this outcome that is foreseen by the decade. Next slide. So what is ocean literacy? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I know the audience that is here is familiar with this concept, but it is internationally defined as the understanding of the ocean influence on us and our influence on the ocean. It was born as an initiative, a bottom-up initiative by a number of US colleagues, educators and scientists who realized that there was very little ocean content in schools, and they really wanted to bridge this gap. They developed a framework that is currently used by the international community based on 7 essential principles. And we, as IOC of UNESCO, started to work in 2017 on ocean literacy on the occasion of the first UN Ocean Conference in 2017, where we launched this Ocean Literacy for All initiative. And since then, we have really worked together with the international ocean literacy community to increase more and more our capacity to also engage different stakeholders. Next slide. a little bit of history of ocean literacy. Again, I'm not going too much into the details, but I mentioned that it started in 2002 by colleagues in the US, and then it was brought to Europe by enthusiasts and passionate ocean educators. And also it started to receive a little bit of, I would say, governmental recognition through the Galway Statement signed in 2013, an agreement between the EU, Canada, and US to work together on the ocean Atlantic research, and ocean literacy was mentioned as one of the priorities there. Since then, a lot of other initiatives were launched. We mentioned the Ocean Literacy for All initiative that we as a UNESCO were leading together with a number of marine science educators networks around the world. And then, as we mentioned, the Ocean Decade is really, I believe, the right framework to give a big push to ocean literacy. And we are seeing today with the launch of this toolkit how we are really moving forward in the ocean literacy agenda. Next slide. In recent decades, government authorities have started to work on the inclusion of the ocean in their national educational strategies. We are going to hear from colleagues later from countries that are really, I would like to call them like champion countries, who are really promoting the ocean in curriculum frameworks and in informal education. Next slide, please. And we are proposing today this new blue curriculum because we think that there are a lot of opportunities that can be created by this curriculum. First of all, empower governments, because maybe there are some countries, some governments who are thinking about including the ocean in their curriculum frameworks, but maybe they need tools and approaches, and this is what this toolkit is going to bring to further promote engagement of different stakeholders in the context of the UN Ocean Decade. Of course, promoting informed decisions, because as it was mentioned before, also this is very much linked to the work that our colleagues in the education sector do in the framework of education for sustainable development, and also in the implementation of the SDG 4.7 targets. So really creating and inform and responsible citizens, support the value of local knowledge, promoting the whole school approach that again was mentioned by Renato, where we are not only wanting to include ocean literacy in as a subject to be studied, but we really want the school to be part of this initiative overall. And then of course promoting the ocean as a teaching tool, we could say. What are the common next slide? Yes, thanks, Ana Victoria. So what are the common barriers right now in the current curriculum frameworks? First of all, lack of teacher training and ready-to-use resources. We are really working a lot in UNESCO to make those resources more available for everybody, including promoting the translation of some of the existing resources. In some countries, we have lack of maritime traditions. We really want to work a lot with the landlocked countries. Also, another barrier is related to the fact that curriculum right now are overcrowded, and there might be other national educational priorities. In some countries, we have what we call an inflexible curriculum, so really difficult to start this change process. Also, we are observing a lot of misconceptions about the ocean and the wording, and this was mentioned by Chip at the very beginning of this webinar, in the fact that we have a terrestrial bias in the resources we currently have available. Next slide. So we are proposing and sharing with you this proposal today for designing a blue curriculum that, as I said, is going to be a long process. We are aware of that, but we really want to start this process and using the next 9 years of the Ocean Decade to be able to then say that a lot of countries will have included ocean literacy in their curriculum frameworks. So we want to integrate ocean literacy in different parts of the curriculum, in the teacher and student tools, in the classroom activities, in the materials, in the skills, in the language skills. There are a lot of enormous possibilities to use the ocean, as I was saying before, as a teaching tool. Next slide. And in thinking about what would be our proposal, we thought, of course, yes, ocean knowledge is important, and we all need to start from that. But not knowledge, as we know, and research demonstrate that knowledge is not enough to really bring about the change that we need. So we started to think and work together on the idea of a theory of change model for ocean literacy, which of course starts from knowledge and awareness, but also include strategies to promote an increased connection between students and nature, because again, research demonstrates that the more people are connected and feel emotionally connected with the ocean and with nature in overall, the more they are ready to promote conservation initiatives and be active part of conservation initiatives, and also values and attitudes. We really want to work towards the idea of creating all of those capacities for students to feel empowered, to be able to be definitely active in the change we need. And then competencies, of course, because we want, again, the students to feel capable of being part, for example, of an ocean conservation NGO, to become an ocean scientist in the future. So we want them to have this critical thinking, to have future thinking. So to be able to have a lot of competencies that are going to help us getting from maybe knowing a little bit about the ocean to really, again, become those active agents of change that we really need to go from the ocean we have to the ocean we want. And with that, I pass the floor to Ana Vittoria.
Thank you very much, Francesca. So just a quick presentation about me. My name is Ana Vittoria. I'm ocean literacy consultant for IOC UNESCO. And I will be presenting now the scope and sequence of a blue curriculum. So with the toolkit, we are also proposing this scope and sequence framework, so that refer to the organization of the curriculum through time, in order to guarantee the coherence and also the continuity of the learning process for students. But it's also a structure that presents to the student the flexibility of the ocean and the skills that they need to acquire in order to protect and also to behave in a sustainable manner regarding the ocean. And with this toolkit, we also propose the theory of change, as Francesca presented, on a way that students can have contact with ocean knowledge about the ocean, but also with other aspects such as nature connectedness, development of values. And we propose as well this framework according to all educational levels, not only to very young kids or not only to teenagers, but to all the levels of education. So once we know that also the educational frameworks are different across the world, we also propose that this is structure from elementary, middle school, and high school with those names, because it's also more comprehensive for all to understand. This is one type of table that you will find later on the toolkit, because it's a type of framework for the policymakers and also the curriculum developers to assess and also to understand how ocean literacy can be applied in formal education. So one example of a guideline that would be very useful to include ocean literacy is the formulation of questions regarding plastics. So for example, one student from the elementary grade may have contact with plastic by asking questions about this environment and also the ocean environment, but also asking questions about how the ocean and how plastic end up in the ocean, how plastic is affecting marine life. A middle school student may develop the ability to develop questions about the causes of plastic on the environment, but also understand solutions. And a high school student, for example, could be capable of identifying behaviors and human patterns that inform also questions and later behaviors about the ocean. This example could be, for example, connected with literature, with philosophy, because it incentivizes questions, with sciences, with a citizen science, for example, activity, with mathematics, because high school students may also calculate amount of plastics or different equations about the ocean as well, and history. So this is one example that may be connected with knowledge and awareness, and even the development of values and attitudes towards the ocean. Another example, because in the toolkit we have many tables such as this one. This one is for plastic, but we also have one for climate change. We also have one for ocean heritage. And those are examples of how the ocean can be integrated in the curriculum. A student, for example, may be incentivized to collect information about plastics, and in elementary grade may take part on a citizen science initiative, understand how information is collected. On middle school, be able to do a research collecting clips or even fragments of plastic research about the impacts that it has on the environment. And a high school student may also arrive at the point where this student has knowledge about the ocean space and also about plastic, and may recognize, for example, extreme point of views or even fake news about the plastic. So we are also proposing students to develop a critical sense about the news and even about the content that they read about the ocean. This may be connected with different disciplines. For example, the plastic pollution topic may be connected to science, maths, as I said, statistics, social studies, languages, and also philosophy. And also be worked through different theory of change approaches, as we mentioned. We also in the toolkit propose an implementation framework, which most of the material that we are proposing was also adapted from the UNESCO IBE. So it's interesting to develop, for example, a pilot test with students and also teachers to understand the needs for a blue curriculum, to understand what are the gaps, what are the opportunities, but also to test a curriculum with a pilot phase. Later, also a laboratory tryout and a field tryout may be useful in order to collect critical information for strategic changes and policy decisions. And in the toolkit, we also have many tools that are practical tools for policymakers to use in order to assess the ocean literacy needs, and also to understand how ocean literacy can be as well connected to national priorities regarding the ocean or even environment and etc. We also have one structure that we propose on the toolkit for evaluation. This was also, and it's also being developed in cooperation with UNESCO IBE and also the UNESCO educational sector. And the evaluation of a blue curriculum is a permanent process. And also, I think Renato also introduced a bit of what the curriculum is and how this evaluation process as a permanent is important. So it's also important to revise and adjust the ocean literacy topics according to the context. We have now one activity, which is a Mentimeter. I will pass the floor to Francesca so she can introduce the activity, and I will send the link on the chat so you can participate as well.
Yeah, we would like, thanks a lot, Ana Vittoria. We would like to ask you, how do you think the toolkit can help your work in promoting ocean literacy at different levels according to where you work? I was just checking the chat and seeing a lot of very interesting comments. So please either use your phone and scan the QR code and look at the link, and then at the end we're going to share with you the results. Thanks a lot. I know it was quite quick that we were able to give you a glimpse of what we are proposing in our toolkit, but of course we're going to share with you the full document and the recordings of this webinar. So now we're going to move towards the presentation of a number of champion countries, as I was saying before, and I would like to start with Portugal, with Raquel Costa, who works for the Portuguese Ministry of the Sea, and is going to talk about a wonderful initiative that we all like a lot, which is the Blue School. Raquel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca. Yes, I'm very grateful to be here and talk a little bit about Blue School. an ocean literacy program that we have been developing in Portugal since 2017. Blue School is an ocean literacy national program targeted at schools, a program that embeds the ocean in the national curricula in different subjects, where ocean sustainability is an end and also a means to achieve values of responsible and active citizens. We encourage students to convert knowledge into effective action through critical thinking and creative learning. For example, last year, inspired by the Ocean Decade, our community discussed the 10 Blue School commitments for a better ocean in 2030 at regional and national levels. Our students had great ideas and began implementing them in their schools this year. This is the type of action that we aim to get students to discuss and actively contribute to the ocean's sustainability. Going further, Blue School has become an ocean literacy community. We gather students, teachers, families, municipalities, and partners entities coming from different sectors: research, industry, maritime sector, NGOs, museums, and so on. Our network includes students from coastal regions with clear social, economic, and cultural connections with the sea, and schools from inland, for whom the ocean, while far away, is learned as essential for human life. Blue schools are encouraged to involve their local communities in their actions, and they love it. Our role, the role of the coordination, is to facilitate meaningful cultural connections, giving voice to different people with different perspectives, from scientists to sports people, from fishers to artists, and of course to our students. And let's not forget about the number one actor in formal education, teachers. We work together with them. We offer mentorship, training, activities, and tools, helping them feel empowered to nourish education with the ocean, framed by their local knowledge. The Blue School program's concept was shaped respecting the ocean literacy principles and, above all, the UNESCO multi-perspective approach. Blue School is also aligned with the SDG goals, contributing directly with SDG 4, 14, and 17. Blue School is coordinated by the Portuguese Ministry of the Sea. Our action has played a major role in introducing ocean literacy in the national political lexicon. For instance, Blue School is one of the ocean literacy goals in the Portuguese National Ocean Strategy and is also present in the electoral programs of Portugal's major parties. Today, Blue School reaches 306 schools, 1,200 teachers, 56,000 students, and more than 100 partners. This fantastic community gives us ideas and recommendations to adjust the program to surpass obstacles and challenges. I look at this program as a mutual growing experience. These 4 years of adjustments and consolidation has allowed us to cooperate and work together with other countries to develop related initiatives. In 2020, the EU for Ocean created a network of European Blue Schools, and more recently, under the scope of the All Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, a transatlantic Blue School network was established, including more than 12 countries of 3 continents. I hope that these different initiatives that gather schools and stakeholders with diverse social, cultural, and educational backgrounds can allow for fruitful synergies globally, contributing to quality education, inclusiveness, and ocean literacy. I'd like to end my talk to inviting all the Ocean Literacy Network to join us on May 19th, the Blue School Day. On this day, we are challenging our Blue School community to stand together in a human chain that, in all senses of the word, connects us. A true ocean literacy movement at a global scale is only possible if we all join hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Raquel. You made me have goosebumps with this last comment. So as usual, thanks very much. Thanks to Portugal for the amazing work that you do and your leadership in ocean literacy. And now we move to another friend, Ronaldo Cristofoletti, who is a professor at the Federal University of São Paulo. And he's also a great leader in the ocean literacy community, and is going to speak about a wonderful initiative of the city of Santos. Ronaldo, the floor is yours.
Hello, Francesca and everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, and congratulations, Francesca and team, for the amazing moment of launching this toolkit. I will present quickly about the experience in Santos in Brazil. So Santos is in the southwest Brazil, and we had started in 2017 to bring the ocean literacy, engaging with stakeholders. We had listened a lot here about this, as Vladimir said at the beginning, this moment of moving to the action. And Chip brought us a very important point, that's how can we include ocean in our discussions? And Renato mentioned the question of the moment to connect. And I think that what you present here that end up in the law of ocean literacy bring a little bit of these three steps for us. And I will present what were the main learnings we had over the time here. First, to go back, bringing the value of the ocean decade, it's all based in science. In 2017, we started to co-design a project, a science policy project with the Santos City Hall, where the question was really related to what Chip said. How can we incorporate ocean in our dialogue? How can we integrate decision makers, universities, and civil society to bring this up? This project was approved in 2017, and in 2018, the first initiatives highlighted some talks like citizen science is a priority for ocean conservation. Climate change in Santos is the first city in Brazil of having a plan for climate change adaptation. Also bringing science literacy in the schools. How would we have our children acting and learning by acting and understanding the scientific process? There is no mention of ocean literacy at that stage in 2018. But then came a very important point of connecting knowledge with people. At the end of 2018, two moments were important. First, the IOC high-level event, the first event to discuss the ocean decade. And just after, there was the Ocean Communication Conference in Europe, where I met Vinicius Lindoso, and by consequence, just 3 years ago exactly, in 24 January in New York with Francesca, and we started to realize all those synergies. At that stage, Francesca had launched the first toolkit, and I remember we were discussing and say, well, can you translate that for the Portuguese and give some support for the schools? And she said, let's go for that. And then in 2019, based on that co-design process, we start to have different moments happen here. The schools, we have all the science literacy, and ocean talks coming. We have linking this local to the global with the toolkit, the Blue Schools discussion with Raquel and starting to design the All-Atlantic Blue Schools. Some research we've been doing in ocean literacy in the curriculum, considering the Brazilian reality and all our from local to national levels, and always interact with the policymakers and decision makers. And then came a question with them, they asked me, what comes next? And I said, I don't know, you tell me. What can we do together next? And then they said, well, the only thing we can make here is trying to bring this as a policy. And I said, let's make it. And make sure this was being disseminated into the society through many different ways. 2020, 2021, that step, together with IOC and UNESCO, moved on for a pilot project, a kind of a blue schools linking to the network, but understanding what was going on. It was 85 schools in the city, more than 3,500 teachers and almost 30,000 students. But the question was, they would show us what to do, how can we include the ocean literacy in the curriculum? It was about on the process. They were doing their job and showing us. And then that, with the decision policymakers following it, came out in the last year with an ocean literacy law. There was the understanding by the policymakers that there would be a guarantee of the right to learning about the ocean, and then building a generation that can understand the ocean literacy properly and can apply that in their careers later on. So finally, to end up on this, based on this story, there was co-designing built with them. So this year, we had the start of an alliance of ocean literacy in Brazil, where different cities, we had at this stage 15 different cities from north to south, that want to build their own process. They want to understand what they do different than that. And by that, I would say the learning point is co-design with them. Doing with them is the difference. Thinking globally, linking to the toolkits, respecting their time, and understanding the impact by their point of view as well are the difference to building and to changing acts from these actions for the policies we need. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you so much, Ronaldo. We indeed did a long path from when I was in Santos, and I really look forward to be able to come back to Santos to see the amazing result, to see the first ever law, ocean literacy law approved by the city of Santos. And I know you're already working with other cities in Brazil and creating an alliance of cities. We need a little pause for the interpreters. So before moving to Russell, I would like to ask Ana Vittoria if she can share the results of the Mentimeter. So I see that the most quoted word is knowledge, leaders, data, policy, multidisciplinary approach, shared framework, reliable information. This is awareness, transdisciplinarity. These are all very important words for us, for the Ocean Decade. It's again, as I was saying before, this is not going to be an easy process. We are well aware. We are, though, in good company, because we have the countries that are presenting here and other countries who are already working. I was looking, for example, in one of the comments in the chat saying that Chile is also working on a national ocean strategy. We know that Canadian colleagues are really moving forward, US colleagues, of course, and so and we know that this is going to be quite an important year for ocean action. We are all looking forward to be all together in Lisbon, hopefully in presence for the second UN Ocean Conference, and we really would like to take that opportunity to really have ocean literacy at the center of the discussions, because we are all really strongly convinced that ocean literacy is going to help us bridging a lot of those gaps that already exist, especially in the communication between different stakeholders, between the private sector, between the education sector, governments, NGOs. So we really would like to use this opportunity of this year. And let me just briefly mention that some of you might know that President Macron decided to organize a summit, which is going to take place in Brest from the 9th to the 11th of February. One of the workshops organized in the context of this One Ocean Summit is going to be on ocean education, and our proposal for a blue curriculum is going to be presented during this workshop. So we already have a second step after this wonderful day that we are sharing with you to really celebrate education, to celebrate the ocean, and to really start this process all together. So now I would like to move to Russell Stevens, who is the head of education of the Two Oceans Aquarium and author of the South African Marine Sciences curriculum, which is now an official national school subject. Russell, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca, and I'm delighted to share with these colleagues. As with other esteemed participants here, South Africa has a rich history and experience in coastal architecture research, evidencing the earliest 150,000-year-old fossil remains of human use of marine resources. We also have maritime history, global north expeditions around the African coastline, and marine biological research. For example, where Darwin visited Cape Town on the HMS Beagle in the 1800s. Consequently, the HMS Challenger sampled marine specimens off the South African coastline and recommended that there be an appointment of the University of Cape Town and South African Museum, a director of marine biological research, to which John Gilchrist was appointed 100 years ago. The uniqueness of the South African marine studies is that research presents the Southern Ocean, Indian, and the Atlantic Ocean basins, as well as Arctic and Marion and Prince Edward Islands research. But also, what's important is the South African waters have been identified as representing significant biological hotspots. Professors, residents at South African universities have published their research prolifically in many esteemed international journals of marine sciences. And over the past few decades, the South African Journal of Marine Sciences has recorded an enormous number of South African marine sciences research papers. But teachers of marine sciences at South African universities have expressed the need to develop and to bridge the gap between the content at school level and the content at university level. So during the United Nations Ocean Decade, and 100 years on from Darwin, Challenger, and Gilchrist, when they conducted their research of South African waters, it has been appropriate for the South African Marine Sciences official school subject to be launched. This is a national subject from which grade 10 to 12 students can choose as one of their 7 subjects for which they will apply for university admission. The Two Oceans Aquarium education staff were well suited to develop and author the curriculum due to our experiences in marine sciences enrichment courses, and we were approached by the officials of the Western Cape Education Department to write the national curriculum for the National Department of Basic Education. So, moving on, the subject has the following 4 content pillars, including content on oceanography, including coastal geology, sedimentology, water quality, meteorology. Secondly, marine biology, including the major marine phyla from protists to mammals, and that's taught in detail according to life patterns of movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Ocean ecosystems is the 3rd pillar, which includes ecological concepts, estuaries, open ocean, kelp forests, rocky and sandy shores. And the 4th and final pillar is humans in the oceans, including human indigenous content, climate change, ocean acidification, overfishing, ecotourism, and marine protected areas. Critical is that this curriculum focuses on transdisciplinarity thinking. The curriculum is an Africanized ocean literacy that is placed in the global marine sciences context. The copy of the curriculum is available on our website, and I'll put it in the chat after my presentation. The course consists of 81 subjects, and the resource material has been written over the past 4 years. The advantage of that is that it is shared with school students and teachers via the Google Drive. The course runs over 36 months, grade 10, 11, and 12, with 2 final year exams that is written in the country. And we have currently had 12 students writing in November 2021. In this year, we will have 80 students, and in 3 years' time, we will have 300 students. Potentially, we will have 8,000 students writing these exams nationwide. Thank you very much, and back to you, Francesca. I will put my contact details and the details of the curriculum in the chat now.
Thank you so very much, Russell, for all your effort, and also to be one of the few countries in which we have really already implemented those topics in the curriculum frameworks. So now I'm moving to the last speaker, Ana Lorena Orozco Alvarado, who is assessor for the environmental education of the Costa Rican Ministry of Public Education, and she is in charge of the marine education chapter. Ana Lorena, the floor is yours.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Yes,
Saludos.
thank you very much. Hello to everyone. I'm going to try to share very quickly.
Pueden, ahora sí.
Sí.
Para el Ministerio de Educación Pública ha sido un poco
For the
complicado.
Public Ministry of Education. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Francesca.
Sí, sí, te escuchamos. Sí.
Ah, bueno. Para el Ministerio de Educación Pública ha sido un poco complicado.
The Public Ministry has been complicated to take onto education, maritime education, because there was a lot of obstacles in the teachers that if this education is going to have more work for the teachers on one side, and on the other side, the education authorities. Since it is not so material, why are we going to teach about this, since the students don't see this? But then we have a politic that appears, policy of until 2020. And there was also a reinforcement of the SDGs that helps us to put these topics as a priority, as well as other programs related to it, related to topics that already involve these topics. Our vision is important because we have access to Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and it's important for them to have a conception about this. Those that have, we can go through coast to coast in 4 hours, and then this helps us to teach the students these concepts better, and to imagine and experience these topics first person. We try to promote the education, the marine and coastal education, in all different modalities of the educative system, informal and non-formal areas of education. we go through this from from basic education to higher education. We try to strengthen this objective of biodiversity conservation, but we have realized that there has to be alliances between the environment ministry, the culture, and health ministries, because without alliances of this type, it's very difficult to have any change or take on to the subject. The focus is interdisciplinary. We have tried to assume a concept that we call terruño. We know where we are, we know where I'm from, I know where resources I can count on, I know what type of fauna and flora we have here in our territory. It's more or less the concept of Satoyama in Japan, where every student values accordingly to the contact that he has with the other maritime resources. The beneficiaries were at the beginning were only teachers and heads, but today we are working with all parts of education, like the parents, the students, friends, who help us to pass on this knowledge about nature, and that only belongs to the people who have had personal contact with the ocean. So it's very important that the students learn from the knowledge of inhabitants who live close to the sea. So we have 300 schools that belong to the coastal maritime regions. We try to elaborate educational materials which are difficult to find. We need more scientific texts. We need to take on to a toolkit that is adequate, appropriate for the context, like you mentioned. And we need a change, not only in paradigm, but also in openness to recognize these topics as a topic of the formal curriculum. The structure of the workshops have been difficult to perform from a virtual standpoint, but we have been able to use games, other techniques. But in reality, it's very important to have this contact with the cultural sources, with the sea, with the ocean. So I thank you very much. This is what we have realized in our presentations. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ana Lorena.
We are running out of time. This is such a pity, because I would have really liked to keep on working with you and discussing with you and have the opportunity to have a debate. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that. But as I said, this is just the starting of a process. I put in the chat the link to our ocean literacy portal. Please share all of your initiatives, wonderful initiatives on the ocean literacy portal. If you want to contact us at oceanliteracy@unesco.org. As I mentioned, we are already having a next step after this launch of the toolkit in France, in Brest. On the 10th of February, we're going to have this webinar in the context of the One Ocean Summit, when we are going to reinforce again the need to involve different stakeholders, different governments to support the implementation of all this proposal that we are putting forward today. I really would like to thank the speaker, to thank the participants coming from all around the world. It was amazing to see you here on the International Day of Education. Thanking again the IOC of UNESCO Executive Secretary, thanking Chip Canlife from AXXL, thanking our colleagues from the International Bureau of Education and Jamie from Encounter Edu who work with us, and also would like to thank the reviewers that have helped us to finalize the document. Diana Payne from USA, Nicola Bridge from UK, Raquel from Portugal, and finally Daniel Kaznik from Peru. So thanking all of you for your work. We are going to share with you soon the recordings, the links to the recordings, and the link to the toolkit. So thanks again, and the work starts now. So I count on you all. Thanks. And thanks to the interpreters. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Very nice meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Gracias.
Adios.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very
Gracias,
much.
thank you.
Excellent presentations.
Excellent, yeah.